Hi everyone, and thanks for joining. So today I'm going to show a bit of a quirky way of doing a disabled state on a button. So I was on Twitter, as I am far too frequently, and through my feed, just one of those types of posts came up where it was, this developer's in 2050 and we're all back here in 2020, and it had a couple of mandatory form fields, and they'd left them blank, and you'd traditionally see a button like maybe looking disabled, or actually probably more on forms the button's like kind of active, and then it validates that you haven't done it and says, hey, hold on a second, go back and change these. Anyway, so the submit button looked normal, and when you and the video just showed a mouse hovering over it, and it would move out of the way every time you tried to like kind of get to the clicking point. And I thought, oh, that's quite funny actually. It's quite quirky, and it reminds me a bit like disabled states that you have in Storyline, where you might just show a button to be disabled before the learner has completed the parts that they need to on that page to help them continue. So I thought about first, before I carry on, I really wish I'd kind of been able to see who the developer was that made it. It didn't have any credit or source within the tweet. It was just like, and it just like kind of went up and down through my feeds, and I've lost it. I've not been able to get back to it. It's just like one of those quirky things that you see and kind of sticks in your mind. So if this ever did find its way to the developer who kind of came up with that, I'd be more than happy to kind of change some stuff in my posts and such to make sure there's kind of source information in there, and a bit of kudos, because it helped me come up with an idea for something I wanted to do in Storyline, because I thought this would be quite a cool thing to do in Storyline. Because it's a bit like what I'd do with a disabled state, but it just looks a bit quirkier, and so I had a go with it. So on the GIF in my LinkedIn post, the GIF was this page here. Sorry, the short looping video was this page here, which is it's using name data from the LMS. And as I was like kind of finishing it, I was thinking, oh, it's quite a complex page to go over with this as well, so I'll just do something simpler. So I'm going to go through this simpler one here, but if you did want to know a bit more about pulling a name from an LMS, which I grab the student name and then split it into the first and last name, give them the option of selecting that if we're right, or typing in their own name and changing the variable to their own name if they want. More than happy to do a video on that. Just send a comment or give me a shout, and I'll do one on here as well. It just needs a bit of JavaScript adding in, and I'm by no means that type of programmer who really has JavaScript knowledge. I'm very much like use Storyline to what it gives me on the page, but it's quite freely available. You can find information and posts on how to do this in videos, but I did find some a bit out of date, and I found a tactic which worked really well for me, which I've added into here. So more than happy to go through that if you'd like me to do something similar to this like that. So what my page is doing here is I've set up quite a basic question, which is, it's just like a topic revisit question. So, have you learnt about this subject before? Which is, we haven't actually got a subject in this. It's just my demo template. But it might be something that you put in there if you've got a full course, a long course, but there might only be a revisit section, which just refreshes a memory for someone else. This is like asking that so the course can then go off in its direction that it needs to based on their answer. Now, I usually have a disabled state on my Let's Go button at this point, so it'd look disabled and you'd recognise, okay, I need to press yes or no before I do this. with it not having it there, I'd be like tempted to, okay, they've left it open so I can go for this, and oh no, it's gone. There we go. So I've just got it where it just hides in this box here, and we just tell the learner why it's hiding in the box. So I just thought I'd put a little speech bubble here, you know, just give us an answer if you don't mind before cracking on. So if I hit yes now, it pops back out of the box, and then I'm allowed to carry on. I've just got like a little confirmation page, which I probably need a button on here, but we're not making a full course here, are we? Okay. So the mechanics are probably as you would expect, which the Let's Go button has just got a movement pathway on it. So I've used a curved one to like kind of let it do a little dance on its way in. It's not really a dance, is it? So it's got a movement going in and then a movement going out. I've got a few variables on the go. So for one, it's tracking has it moved and has it moved twice. So that's why this isn't a true false variable. It's a number variable because I wanted 3 values to it. And then we've got a revisit, which is because this page is like kind of a topic revisit page. I've called my variable revisit, and this is controlled by these buttons. Again, I wanted the page to understand it's not been set. No, it hasn't yet been determined on this page that the learner's decided if they've revisited this course or not. I wanted them to know that yes, they have revisited, yes, they have interacted with one of the buttons and they know the subject, or they have interacted and they don't know the subject. So again, I wanted 3 values, which is why I've gone for a number 1 on here as well. Originally started off with both of these as true and false. But I found that as I was doing my programming, you might have a better way of doing this, which is I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But I found that I needed my 3 values on mine. So yes and no, controlling the revisit. So we're stating that if they need to learn the entire subject, then revisit will be set to 1. Revisit will be set to 2 if they know the subject. And obviously revisit 0 is the default value, which is nothing's been set yet. So on hover of Let's Go, it will, I'll go through this. Okay, I'll stop for a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how the button works as a start, talk through how it works. But as I was kind of thinking through, I want to build this, I thought, there's a few accessibility considerations that I need to keep in mind with Storyline. Because though I'm hiding a button, really I'm just sticking it behind an object, and a keyboard user might still be able to go that. So I'll as I said in the post, I'll talk through the couple of accessibility things in here as well. There may be more, and sound off if you want me to go through those as well, or that's fine. But I'll go through how the button works to start off with. So as we hover over this button, if revisit is 0, so if none of these have been set yet, then start a hide animation. So that's just one of these motion pathways that I've named. So I've named one of them show, and I've named one of them hide, because it's just goes one way or the other. So it kicks off the hide animation that moves into action if revisit is 0. I've got it moving quite fast, so it'd be no, I haven't. Let's get it moving quite fast. Show can be fine. We'll put that down to its minimum. I think it's 0.10. Because you might be able to click it on your way over or catch it. So let's make it quite difficult to catch. And then at the same time, so as we hover over Let's Go as well, this box graphic here becomes normal. So its initial state is hidden, and my chap is in the box graphic. I know I've not designed the best box in the world here. I just you know, it's probably better if you had like a treasure chest or something. But I've just built quite a simple one, which is just a rectangle moving about, and it just does a fade just to like kind of just add a bit of niceness to as it closes. And my chap is in the state as well, just so everything can kind of fly in at the same time. So if we hover over here, whoop, here I come, whilst my button's moving, and I've taken your button away because you haven't selected your input yet, and then the box closes. So moves over the hide movement path. Box graphic sets to normal, so he flies in, and then when the animation hide is finished, so I've got everything else triggering on the finish of hide, my box graphic changes its state to closed, which is a custom state I've made with my top rectangle in a bit of a different position. My Let's Go button goes to disabled, which I'll talk about in the accessibility side of things. Set moved goes to value 1, so I now know it's moved once. It's moved here. And my text box, which is just reminding the learner of why I'd like them to press one of these buttons before using Let's Go, appears as well. So all of that is triggering on the hide animation completing. So as that finishes, all of these things kind of kick into action. So you can see your button flying away. Hopefully you just spot it on its way out, but more information appears on the screen after that animation is kicked in. So you're not having to think about all the things at the same time. And then that's kind of how my button hides. It's all kind of triggered with this hover action, which then sets a chain reaction of events here. And then because I can no longer select that Let's Go button, it's hidden in this box here. It's kind of forcing my hand of like, okay, I'll press one of your buttons that you want me to. And both of these buttons trigger the revisit variable, as you saw. So they'll set that. So I've got a action waiting for a variable to change. So a revisit variable, when revisit variable changes. So if it knows it's in there, so moved is set to 1, it's in there when it's on 1. Box graphic goes back to normal. So the box opens up. It will put it on the show pathway. Comes back out on the show pathway. Again, if moved is already 1. So it won't do any of that. If we've actually done the normal way that you would do the page by pressing it before going to Let's Go. We set the button back to normal because whilst it's in here, it's disabled, which I'll go through when I talk a bit more about the accessibility at the end. So again, only does it if moved is at 1 because it's only going to set itself to disabled when it's in there. Or it also sets it to normal if revisit is 0 and animation off is true. So again, I'll go through the animation stuff, the animation off as part of like kind of the accessibility side of this, and so I won't go through that in too much detail. So that's everything just kind of reappearing in the page. Okay. Did just pause for a moment there. I just wasn't sure about some of my programming, but it's okay. I was missing something. But what I did find is don't set your show to 0.10. It's far too fast. It's like flickers over there immediately. 0.50 is so half a second is fine, where you can kind of see it moving across. You get the idea, but it's really stopping. It's not letting you press that button as it goes. Okay, so let me just have a peek at what I thought I was missing. Here we go. So this is no, it's not this one that I thought was missing. Let's have a look. I did just spot it on the screen. Yeah, here we go. So just going to hide under the let's go button because it's obviously relevant to the animation on there. So that's where I was missing it. I was expecting it to be under visited. But anyway, so again, as it's showing, we do another small chain reaction, which is hiding this speech here because it's no longer relevant. And we set moved to 2, so we now know that moved is just here. And the reason we set that to 2 is to make sure that it isn't able to kind of do any of these again. Actually, they only do them on. I did find bugs where it was still triggering the movement, so I've done that. But anyway, that's kind of why I've got my my 2 values on there. But maybe I did reprogram it in a better way where I don't need to do that moved anymore. Anywho, I think it's better having the 3 values just in case we were doing anything else. We know whether it's in there or out there or not being moved at all. So what do we need to be conscious of with accessibility? So for a start, there's something I haven't put in here yet deliberately, which I have put in my name one. So I'll show you that one first. So there's around about 3 things that we've got to be conscious of with this one here. I'd say animations off is I'd say it's a bit of a stretch because there's not kind of much going on, but it's fast movement. It could be distracting. I just wanted a bit of a safety net for it, and can be a useful kind of variable to have through your courses. If you've got lots of animations, because you use that variable to help your course skip them throughout. So this button here just kind of turns off the animations and turns it more into a traditional button. But the main thing is like you'd think immediately, it's how I started the programming, is that I want that to happen on hover, because it's going to be as my learner's moving over to it that it kind of triggers that action. But what if you've got a keyboard learner? That hover does not kind of trigger on focus. So I'm now just using tab to focus my buttons, and there we go, I can get to it. I can hide under that one. So I can actually trigger that button, avoiding my kind of programming in place. We can stop that. That's absolutely fine. So let's be conscious of what we want to happen as someone hovers over it. It's only these 2 here because everything else triggers a chain reaction from these. So these are the 2 actions I need to be conscious of, and I can trigger them on a key press. And the good thing about key presses in Storyline is that you can relate them to a button. So as the user presses tab after clicking no, so it's after they've focused on no. So not based on the slide, you know, not just like when they press tab for the first time. It waits for them to get to no, and then we can do the same action, which is move let's go along show. Nope, hide. So I've got that key press there. Let's just look to copy this. Just add, see if we can just add that into the key press as well. No, that's okay though. We'll just put the same action on that. After clicking no. And then we want that to have the same conditions, and that should make a keyboard user have the same experience as a mouse user now. Oh, and there we go. It's disabled as well. So that was why. That's the important thing about disabling it as well. Okay. So if I just show you, common trick for making buttons not pressable is putting like kind of masks over them, or something else, or hiding it in a box like we are doing on that slide there. And yes, completely prevents a learner from clicking on it. The thing is that that is still keyboard accessible, so a keyboard user can bypass your what you're trying to stop from happening there. So the reason why I did this as slightly transparent is just so you could see the button behind there, and so you had a clear picture of that focus. So again, my box is working in a similar way as that, but it fully hides it behind there. You know, my button is just underneath it on the timeline, so it kind of hides underneath it. Can't be clicked anymore, but it could be accessed by a keyboard user, and that is why on our chain of actions here we set it to disabled as it gets in there, to make it not be clickable by the button. Having thought about it, it's probably best to set it to disabled as soon as you do this, because maybe you can click it as it's going in. Probably worth testing that on another basis. I won't do it right in this video, just thought about it as we were going along there, and maybe my keyboard user could be quick on that one, but I'll leave it like this for now. But that's where you'd put it if you had that problem. When if in your testing you found that you could still press it, just put it on this same keyboard press action after no, and it'll disable it as it's moving across. So that's why we've got this going to disabled as it goes in there, because even though it seems unnecessary because my mouse user can't get to it, keyboard user can. And it's the same that on like revisit, it's why it goes back to normal on there as well. So there we go. So that was kind of my first consideration. So I think I set this to work up fully with animations off. I've seen that I've got an animation off move pathway, which makes me think I did get it to work that way. Let's just do this if I'm sticking to the rules of the slide that it's asking me to do. So this is kind of how it would work normally. Obviously nothing kind of triggering in the action or anything like that. Now I might immediately as a learner understand that I don't want to see any animations. you know, I always try and avoid those. So I see an animation's on button and I'm aware, okay, that's how I stop them, just in case any come on there. So it now goes to its normal disabled state, and the slide is going to behave as you would expect, really. So there we go. I can just like kind of access it normally, and it kind of works without triggering any of those animations in. What I might do as well is, so this is the thing, let's see if I did actually set this up. I'm sure I tested it. So the other thing that you might do is you might hover over it and like, oof, do not like that animation. That's all a bit too fast, and it's not working for the way I like to learn. So I might be like, as soon as I've seen that, okay, I don't want to see anything like that anymore. So I'm going to turn animations off. So what I've got is I've got an animation off, which I'll show you shortly, which immediately just moves the button here in a disabled state. So it acts as if I've pressed it beforehand. And there we go, works normally again there. So that is what I've kind of taken into consideration with the accessibility on this. So just barrier for animations, safety net, sorry, for animations where I might want to have those possible to turn off. Making sure that it's not letting me, for some reason it's not letting me keyboard onto these anymore. Must be because I've over previewed it, can sometimes happen. Making sure that a keyboard user gets the same experience as a mouse hover over, and then making sure that as well as being hidden visually, it can't actually be accessed anymore because it's disabled and hidden behind there. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. I'll just quickly show you the last piece of the puzzle, which is, so what I've got here as well is I mustn't be able to see the line. It's literally on the button. So I've got a movement pathway called animation off. It's a shame you can't just scroll through your different movement pathways, because I don't think I can get to it unless I can tab through somehow. No, don't think I can. I've got a movement pathway which is literally just, it doesn't even move it. Its green and red button is in the same place, and if when animation off changes, it disables that button like you saw there. If none of these buttons have been pressed before that has been triggered, so animation off is just a true false variable. So my animation button here, it just toggles animation off, so true false true false true false, and it moves it straight to that. It does it on that along animation off pathway, which is my immediate one that just drops it there instantly. So if it's in here, it'll suddenly boop, just drop to there, and because its red and green dot are over the same spot, it literally puts it there immediately. So there you go. Any questions, feel free to give me a shout or ask away in the comments. But thanks ever so much for watching, and like I said, if you want a bit more on this here, I'm more than happy to do another one of these for that. Thank you.